Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the Ki-94-II, the second event plane that has been released in the current summer event. And this plane has kicked up a lot of dust. It has been criticized by many people, many calling it bad. I'm not necessarily in that category immediately, but I would not call this plane undividedly good either. It is somewhere in between, and I'll explain to you why. We'll get into things. Now let's first mention why this plane could be called good. It's very good firepower. This is amazing. It has 2x 30mm HO-155 cannons with 150 rounds per gun, and it has two 20mm HO-5 cannons with 150 rounds per gun as well. I use universal for both guns, and they performed very nicely. You can also use stealth, something like that. Very good guns that really evaporate planes. It's a little bit similar to the Ki-87 in that department, although this plane really feels like a much heavier version of the Ki-87. Now this plane has decent roll rate between 350 and 550, about those speeds, and above that it suffers in the roll rate from compression. It starts to become really sluggish at higher speeds in the roll rate, and at low speeds it also becomes a brick for other reasons. It has good speed in the dive though, and it redlines at about 820 and it rips at 850. The compression of the plane though is real above 600 km an hour. The elevator works pretty well up until about 700, but if you get above 700, even the elevator starts to give up, and yeah, that's no good. The plane is not a fast plane though, even though it has a high top speed and performs very nice in a dive. It feels very slow on mid to low altitudes, and at sea level it's just terrible. It will be everything else is faster, unless you're coming straight from a dive and you can continue that for a little bit. The energy retention is not great, and the acceleration is no more than decent, and you need a steep dive to actually get that decent acceleration. It performs best though on higher altitudes, but even there it is not better than some of its competitors. You can outrun some planes, but some planes surprisingly catch up to you. I had trouble the other day catching up with a B-29 on 8 kilometers. I mean, it feels very strange that way. It has a little bit of the same kind of problems that Ta-155H1 also has, which also supposed to be made for higher altitudes. This plane also has the thin wings and the wide wingspan, just like that plane, but that plane also doesn't perform excellently on the higher altitudes, and this plane is the same. This plane really is a pure boom and zoomer, or a boom and runner. And why you want to run instead of zoom up immediately after a confrontation is the following reason. It's the engine responds very slowly from being at 0%. After you've throttled down to 0% and you throttle back up, it takes a long time, and I think it's about 5-6 seconds before the engine starts to really fire up again. So you're sitting there without engine power for a good 5 seconds, let's say. And if you're soon climbing out and you face something like Spitfire that's climbing up after you, you're gonna be in a world of hurt, let's say that. The turn speed of the plane, well, at high speeds it can perform decently a turn or two, but I say decently, it's not something to speak of. It's not good turn rate or anything. But at lower speeds, this decent turn speed goes out the window completely, and it becomes very bad. You can improve it somewhat with flaps, which are good up until about 500 kilometers an hour, which is actually quite good. You have a wide flap use range, but they also function as something of an air brake. You really bleed speed when you use flaps, so you really gotta consider when you use them, and if you use them, please do kill the plane, because after you use them you've lost your speed and you've lost any edge in this plane. If you lose your speed, you're done in this plane. The climb rate on the plane. Now here we come to one of the things that is important on the plane. It should be important because this is a boom and zoomer. The climb rate is not bad, but it's not good either. It's an average climb rate, and it sits somewhere at what most of the P-47s have. I would say it's a little bit like the P-47N. It's not an M, but it's not a D either. But the P-47s have an interceptor spawn. This plane doesn't. And this plane starts at the airfield. Of course, when you have maps with aircraft carriers, you get an air spawn, but many other planes do get that then as well. And if you have to start on an airfield with this climb rate, you're gonna fall short when you're facing something like a P-51 or a Seafire or a Spitfire or a lot of other planes that have climb rate that surpasses this plane. So you're gonna be in trouble. It doesn't have spectacular climb rate. It is not easy to be the highest plane per se, and the plane really needs it. So this plane needs extensive side climbing. Be aware of that. You've got to be the highest plane in this. If you have somebody above you, you're in deep shit, and it's often a Spitfire, and well, they have better acceleration, better energy retention, and they're much more maneuverable, and they can keep up with you in a dive for a long time. This plane has a better top speed in a dive than those planes, but bloody hell, it ain't easy fighting Spitfires in this thing. Now, like I said, below average acceleration and energy retention. And another thing the plane has to deal with is its overheating. It has severe overheating if you use WEP extensively, and it doesn't cool down in a second either. So you basically want to manage it with throttle usage and smart throttling down here and there. But definitely can be a problem when you're in extensive dogfights and the engine overheats on you. So all in all, the plane does have some major downsides to work with, but and next to that, that's what I wanted to mention, don't forget that, is especially at the moment, I mean, the first day I flew this out, I had some very bad results. I was often the last guy left, alone at altitude against 6, 7 enemy planes, and you have to imagine that you're flying this plane at the moment with full teams of Ki-94s that are stock. And I mean, I spaded it with some Golden Eagles, but bloody hell, even spaded, the plane performs spaded what I just mentioned. We got surprised here, by the way. I was thinking that guy had gone back to the airfield, but hell, he didn't. But even spaded, this plane is what I mentioned. It's good at what it does, but it has some major weaknesses to deal with. But if you fly it in a team of stock Ki-94s, it's terrible. It's terrible. Because what I would advise you to do in a normal Japanese match is to use this plane as a side climbing, high altitude boom and zoomer that comes in as a support plane. This plane is not meant to be the main focus point of dogfighting and stuff like that. Energy fighting, no way. This plane needs to come in from the side, from altitude, with high speed boom and zooms, and it needs to help out allies that have an enemy on their 6 or are bothered by 2 enemy planes. It needs to pull those planes off, destroy one, get back to altitude, ally grateful. That's the way you want to use this plane. That's what it's good at, like we used it here. Came from altitude, most planes are low, and this is where this plane can shine. And this is where this plane, well, it really does good at that role. You can get back to altitude, never throttle down in the dive completely to 0, because your engine will take time to work its way back to full power, as I mentioned. But yeah, when you fly this plane, you got to be very disciplined. This plane is completely unforgiving. It is brutally unforgiving, let's say that. Well, in this match, in this last match that I'm showing you, the matches you saw in this video were from my second day of flying, where the results were already becoming a little bit better. After the first day I would have written this plane off as completely bad and not worthy of your time. But at the second day I was flying it much better. I got a few 3 kill matches, I got a few 2 kill matches. And we got the kills in there finally. And it was starting to work a little bit as I started to fly it in the way that I just mentioned to you. Fantastic as a head-on monster, by the way. It's really good at that. Fantastic. And we finished this match off with 3 kills, which is very nice. But yeah, and I think if you fly this plane extensively and you start to use it in that role, then yeah, you can get results with this plane. But definitely gotta get away from the Ki-94 spam with all stock planes, and that was devastating. That first day, just a complete nightmare. But yeah, let's take a look at the results, at the rewards we got for this performance. Let's see, we've got Final Blow, the best squad, Terror of the Sky and Bulletproof. We've got 41,000 Silver Lions and 2,300 research points. First place, pretty nice. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. Now this plane is a mixed bag for me. It has some good sides, it has a lot of downsides to work with. You gotta be extremely disciplined in this plane. Very, very unforgiving. And I don't know how often I will touch this plane after this, because of course it's busy. I gotta go on to the next plane and the next video and stuff like that. But as a boom and runner, boom and zoomer in the support role, with a lot of good planes in the match, and you coming from the sides, coming from altitude, this plane definitely has a role to fulfill in War Thunder. But at the moment, you really gotta work very hard for it, and you might get the impression that the plane is good for nothing. But it does have some good sides, and you can definitely use it to those good sides. But you need a decent team for it, and at the moment the Japanese teams are all in stock Ki-94s, so that's not good. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.